Welcome back to Mind Tribe. Okay, let's just dive right into this explainer and decode the hidden psychological mechanics that leaders, marketers, and, well, master influencers use to silently guide human behavior. Look, if you've ever walked away from a conversation wondering how on earth you ended up agreeing to something you didn't really want to do, you might be the victim of invisible influence. Today, we're breaking down the pure psychology of how people are subtly directed, and we're going to look at 5 specific techniques they use to pull it off.
But hey, before we kick off our countdown, consider this your warning label. Human nature dictates that people fiercely want exactly what they're forbidden from having. Understanding these deeply ingrained psychological truths, it's going to fundamentally change how you view your everyday conversations. So keep your eyes open as we unpack these invisible strings together.
Starting us off at number 5, the reverse trap.
So this whole concept is built entirely on that simple truth we just mentioned, that forbidding an action makes it absolutely irresistible to the human brain. Just imagine walking up to a friend and saying, "Hey, I had a job for you, but it's probably too hard. Never mind." By intentionally doubting their ability, you instantly trigger their ego. They immediately feel this burning need to step up and prove you wrong. Effectively, you're getting them to do exactly what you wanted them to do without ever forcing them. The best part? They convinced themselves it was their own defiant choice.
Moving right along to trick number 4, master of choice.
Here's the thing. True influence isn't about forcefully making demands. It's really about carefully framing the options you present. If you just make a direct ask like, "Let's go out," you leave the door wide open for a simple no. But what if you frame the choice? Pizza Hut or Domino's? By giving someone 2 options that both lead to your desired outcome, which is just hanging out, you provide them with what we call controlled freedom. They pick the restaurant, which keeps their ego totally safe, but you won the broader game.
And you know what's crazy? This isn't just for making weekend plans. Marketers, major brands, politicians, they constantly use these framed choices out in the wild to make you feel like you've won. Think about it. Buy one, get one free, or buy 2, get 50% off. You're spending money either way, right? But the framing ensures you feel like a clever victor. Whoever designs the options holds the actual power.
Okay, coming in at number 3, the guilty trap.
Guilt is, well, it's basically this incredibly powerful invisible string that pulls people toward you when you use it precisely. Say you've got a flaky friend who keeps canceling plans. A direct attack like, "You never make time for me," instantly makes them defensive. It just pushes them further away. But saying, "If I were important, you'd make time," acts as an emotional mirror. Instead of attacking, you're reflecting the situation right back at them. This forces them to see their own behavior and naturally triggers their guilt, which often results in them apologizing and reaching out without you ever having to demand a thing.
So this actually brings us to a pretty massive turning point in our explainer. Do we really make our own choices, or are we just reacting to our feelings? It questions the very foundation of how we think we operate as logical, rational people.
Which leads us perfectly into number 2, the emotional hijack. Listen to this harsh reality. Whoever holds the remote control to your emotions literally holds the remote control to your brain. An emotional hijack is a psychological state where decisions are driven entirely by intense momentary feelings, stuff like fear, anger, or pride, rather than reality or logic. When someone is overwhelmed by shock or guilt, their rational brain just effectively shuts off. In that vulnerable moment, they're making choices based purely on that immediate, overwhelming feeling.
Think about human decision-making for a second. It's broadly driven 90% by emotion and only 10% by logic. 10! Politicians and master communicators leverage this exact ratio all the time. Instead of relying on dry facts or lengthy statistics, they use powerful rhetoric that triggers fear or pride to secure votes and support. They know that connecting with your emotions bypasses the logical filter entirely.
It really all boils down to this. People remember how you made them feel, not your logic. Always keep in mind that in the game of influence, a momentary feeling will always overpower a perfectly constructed logical argument. If you want to influence a decision, you gotta connect with the underlying emotion first.
And finally, we've reached number 1, the power of silence.
I know, it might sound incredibly simple, but this is actually the most profound and universally applicable tool in the entire psychology of influence. To understand why silence is so powerful, just think back to your childhood. The yelling mom versus the silent, staring dad. The yelling? That was manageable, because you knew exactly what the anger was about and what the boundaries were. But absolute silence? A silent, unblinking stare instantly bred terror, because your brain panicked and rushed to fill in the blanks with the worst possible scenarios.
So how do you actually use this as a practical strategy for extracting the truth? It's just 3 easy steps. Step 1, You simply state, "I know everything." Step 2, you maintain absolute silence. Step 3, you let their guilt fill the gap. By completely removing your own words from the equation, you're letting the other person's anxiety do all the heavy lifting. The silence becomes so deeply uncomfortable that they'll often just confess or over-explain just to break the tension.
You can totally apply this to heated conflicts too. Just maintain steady eye contact, offer a slight smile, and whatever you do, do not speak. Your silence becomes this overwhelming presence. The other person will frantically start to doubt their own points, just stumbling over their words because they have absolutely nothing to push back against.
All of this leaves us with one final, profound question. How are you going to use this invisible influence responsibly? Now that you can clearly see the hidden mechanics guiding human interaction, from the reverse trap to the immense power of silence, I challenge you to step out into the real world today and simply observe. How many of these traps are you falling into daily? And more importantly, how will you use this newly acquired knowledge to take back control of your own choices? Keep an eye out, stay sharp, and thanks so much for joining me for this Mind Trip Explainer. Catch you next time.